هي أستاذ مساعد دكتور في جامعة هوك في إقليم كردستان العراق. حاصلة على شهادة الدكتوراه في اللغويات والترجمة، وتعمل حالياً على تدريس في كلية اللغات قسم الترجمة. لديها خبرة واسعة في تدريس اللغة الإنجليزية وتعليم الترجمة. تهتم بالأبحاث العلمية في مجالات اللغويات التطبيقية وتكنولوجيا التعليم، ولديها العديد من الإنجازات الأكاديمية والعلمية في هذه المجالات، كما شغلت العديد من المناصب الإدارية كرئيس قسم الترجمة في جامعة المستنصرية، إضافة إلى إشرافها على العديد من بحوث طلبة الدراسات الأولية والعليا. بحثها لهذا اليوم Translation Pedagogy CAT Tool Potential for Translation Students. فلتتفضل الأستاذ الدكتور علياء الربيعي.
I would like first to thank the University of Basra, the Deanery, the Department of Translation. I would like to thank everybody who has made my participation possible for today. My presentation today is very, I would say, beneficial for our students in the translation department. So I would like to call the attention of our students, because the tools that I'm going to talk about today are very pertinent to their future job as translators. Actually, this research is based on a course which I initiated in the Department of Translation in the College of Languages, University of the Hook. The title of the course was Machine-Aided Translation and Post-Editing. The title of the research is Translation Pedagogy CAT Tools Potentials for Translation Students. So these potentials, as I told you, they are based on real-life experience in the department where my students actually used CAT tools in their translations. I would like first to start with what is translation pedagogy. Now, it is the study of teaching translation. It involves understanding of the theories and the practices involved in translating one text from one language to another. What do you mean by CAT tools? CAT tools, it is an abbreviation for Computer Assisted Translation. Computer Assisted Translation. They help you create, edit, and store translated texts. So is a CAT tool, is it like machine translation? No, it is not machine translation. It assists the translator in her or his job, but it is not machine translation. How does the tool help the translator in producing a text which is better than if the CAT tool is not available, how to speed up the process, and how to make the process creative and efficient in the market of translation. So they are important because they aid students in producing translations that are like more efficient. As I told you, they speed up the process and hence they will make it more productive. We have different CAT tools. Some of them are, you should pay for them. Other CAT tools are free. Examples like we have WordFast, we have Trados, Omega T, Deja Vu. There are so many CAT tools that you can use. One of the newly introduced CAT tools to the market is called MemoQ. In fact, part of the course I contacted the company. It is actually situated in Hungary. They have an educational program that supports translation departments, and I managed to get 86 free licenses for my students and 4 licenses for the teachers. And I worked with one of my students to give a presentation of how to download the app, how to use it, and then actually my students starting using it. One of my students told me that like comparing between using the CAT tool to not using the CAT tool, and he told me that a document which took like 4 hours, when he used the CAT tool, it took him like 20 minutes. So there's a huge difference in terms of time. The CAT tool does many monotonous tasks that we undertake when we do manual translation. So let's talk about the potentials. Of course, there are some of the potentials because of time limitation. The first one, which is very important, it is called terminology management. Now, let me first tell you about how the CAT tool works. So you have the source text, you upload the source text to the CAT tool. The beautiful job that it does at the beginning is that it puts the text in terms of segments, like phrases, sentences, or even paragraphs. So you have the source text at one side, and it is segmented for you, and then on the other side you can put your translation. So there is no chance that you will miss anything. Everything is clear on the interface. This is called text alignment. So the source text, and you can align the target text, and both texts are obvious for the translator. This means a lot, because when you work with the pen and paper and you start looking for sentences, and sometimes when you leave the text aside and then you come back to it, in the CAT tool, everything is obvious. Even if you leave out a segment, the CAT tool will tell you that this segment has been left untranslated. So the job it does is that when you translate, everything is stored. So you can go back to it, and it is retrievable. This is called the translation memory. It stores anything that you translate. So if you are students, okay, if you start using CAT tools, like if not in the first year, in the second year, you can store everything that you translate in the classroom, all your assignments. Another potential for the CAT tool is that there is a term base. How is it different from the translation memory? The translation memory stores everything, the whole text. But with term base, you can store words and you can store expressions, okay? Not only that. For example, you can store a picture. You can store a forbidden translation. Yeah, like you tell the CAT tool that whenever this translation is mentioned, it is forbidden because you don't like it to be translated this way. So you can store your own specific way of translating a term, okay? So whenever you work on a similar text, there will be a sort of matching between the text that you uploaded and the translation that you stored. And sometimes, we cannot find a translation for the term easily. It takes an effort. Sometimes you need to read take the context into situation, the co-text, and then you come up with a translation. It would be such a waste of time and effort if this is not stored for you. So if you work on that again, the CAT tool will help you retrieve that stored translation. So, this reduces time and effort. So it is like economical in terms of time and effort. Okay? So this is called the term base. For example, imagine that you are translating for a client, okay? And this client has certain instructions regarding the translation of certain terms. So you can make a glossary of the terms given by the client. Probably there is a brand that the client does not want to translate but wants to keep it the way it is. So with terminology management, everything is done for you, okay? So it is like a secretary that works for you and arranges, stores everything that you are doing. So your effort and your time, they are not wasted. And of course, this will ensure consistency in the translation of terms, which is very important in technical translation. So if you come across like a term and it should be translated in a certain way, it is not worthwhile that whenever you come across the term, you think of it and you search for it. The CAT tool will bring it ready-made for you because it is stored your own translation. And there is quality control. So what does quality control, what does it mean? There is a grammar check, there is a spelling check, and sometimes even there are like auto-suggestions for better translations of the text that you are working on. So it is editing the text for you, and this is again very good. Because this process of spell check, it's very monotonous and very tedious. So the tool does it for you. The other thing is collaboration. When my students worked on CAT tools, they were fascinated by the potentials that CAT tools give to them, because they were able to, I created teams. Okay? So when those teams worked on the CAT tool, they were able to contact each other online. And they were able to contact other translators from the company itself which issued the CAT tool. So you can collaborate, you can ask them for feedback for your own translation because it is given, before it is given to the client. You can give it for opinion of other translators. If you come across a difficulty, they can help you with that. So it creates a collaborative environment, so you are not now working alone. And this is part of the student-centered approach where collaboration is emphasized. And this is also part of the Bologna system. I don't know whether you heard of it or not, but it is applied in the University of The Hague, where such practical aspects are emphasized rather than just the theoretical ones. The other good thing about it is that you can integrate neural machine translation. You can integrate neural machine translation with the CAT tool. So you are translating, but you have access. You have access to Google, you have access to Microsoft Translation, you have access to DeepL, okay? So you are not now translating from what? You are not translating from scratch. There is a translation suggested for you, and now it's your job to do what? to do post-editing. Post-editing also reduces time and effort. I also taught my students post-editing techniques because there are like so many things involved when you post-edit. You don't just simply correct. No, you have to know how to deal with the output given to you by machine translation and what kind of post-editing is required. Sometimes there is what is called light post-editing, okay, where style is not very important, but the information is important. And sometimes you have heavy post-editing because style is important. You have to care for information and stylistic features in the text. So this is deep post-editing. We have international guidelines. They are called TOS guidelines. Dr. Kadam knows about them because he supervised one of the students who worked on post-editing. So there are so many aspects that you need to consider when you post-edit, like you check the document for accuracy, and again within each category there are very delicate subcategories involved. So I trained my students to do post-editing as well. And they started to post-edit for each other. And sometimes I noticed them talking with each other, telling that you did a mistake here, this is not accurate, and you have a spelling mistake there, and this is over-translation, this is under-translation. You see, they started to figure the fault with the translation, and not just the fault, but they are able to identify what type of error is that. So this is a case of accuracy. This is a case of under-translation. This is a case of over-translation. So now the students are what? They are more aware of the post-editing process. And they even evaluated the job of their colleagues. I designed a rubric for them with marks, and they started to evaluate their colleagues' output. But of course, I check after them because they are still beginners. But if they are aware of the evaluation process and they are aware of the faults in translation, this will help them improve their performance even better in future. And of course, productivity will be high because, time and effort is secured. So this will automatically cause you to produce things in a better way. And you know that now in today's world, which is very competitive, if you work for a company, if you are working on brands, so you need to speed up the job. The just pen and paper, it will not work in today's market. Once I applied for an online translation job, and one of the requirements for me to build my profile, they asked me, what CAT tool are you using? So this is what it has become a prerequisite for you in order to find a job. So it is not necessary that when you are graduated as a translator that you go to the translation market in your area. You can go online. And some CAT tools, I think it was called Smart CAT, because when my students used those CAT tools, I made groups and I gave them 13 CAT tools to work with and to check. One of them told me that, I think it was a Smart CAT, that part of the CAT tool is that you build a profile and you start taking assignments, paid ones, So she was still a student and they started contacting her, you see? So this is something good, that you can work online. It is not necessary that you seek job in the local area because it might not be available all the time. So industry readiness, what does this mean? That when I teach my students, when they graduate, they will be able to work in the market immediately. they will be able to work in the market. Because, you know, in order to be able to use the CAD tool, you have to know a bit about technology, right? How to download, how to start the project, how to, okay, yes, thank you for that. How to run the project. So my students now are ready. When they graduate, they are already aware of the CAD tools. They are already aware of their potentials. This means now that they are ready for the market, for the job. Because I keep on asking myself, why do we teach our students? To help them find job after graduation. And in the digital age, you know, job descriptions have changed a lot. Now the translator is no longer someone like when we used to do translation this way. You have the text and you have piles of dictionaries, right, to work with. No, this has become, everything has become digital, so you have to acquire this skill. Probably the translator is now a post editor, so why not? Like, you should have post-editing skills. The translator, again, one of the job descriptions is that the translator should be a creative writer. When is that? When you are asked to localize a website. When you are, for example, there's an American company that wants to have its website in Arabic, like in Iraq, in the Gulf, wherever. So sometimes the translator needs to rewrite the content of the website to adjust that website to the culture of the target community. So here, creative writing skills have become a prerequisite for the translator. So the job description has changed. You are a translator, but you have to know to have digital skills. You have to be able to post-edit. You need to be a creative writer. So it is no longer the same way as in the good old days, right? It has changed. So we need to prepare our students for that kind of thing. So these were some of the potentials that my students benefited from the course that I initiated. I intend to develop it even more, inshallah, next year. And I was like anxious to impart this experience to other students in other translation departments. And I have like a plan for workshops to teach post-editing skills in other universities in Iraq. Thank you very much for your interest and for your listening, and I wish you success in your future job as would-be translators and interpreters. So the conclusion is that the use has several advantages, which we have just elaborated on and explained, and they are worthwhile integrating in the curricula of translation departments if you want to like prepare your students to their future jobs. Thank you very much. Thank you.